Dr. Avery, it's so nice to have you
Lisa,
here.
It's a pleasure.
We've been together in other events, but here we are at the Nitric Oxide Summit. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that haven't met you yet, don't know about your background. You know, you're my brother from another mother. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing all these years. And I know this last, 2 or 3 years have been transformation for you, right?
Yes, it has.
God has been moving you.
Yes, he has.
He's been anointing you for the next and the next and the next, right?
Yeah. Yes, he
Can
has.
you share with everybody, your background and what your passion right now?
Sure. So I'm a neurosurgeon, board certified neurosurgeon, and God at the age of 8 told me that I was going to be a neurosurgeon, and it's because my grandmother had a stroke, and I asked him, hey, how can I help people who have brain problems and health problems? And I heard inside that I want you to be a neurosurgeon, become a neurosurgeon. Well, no one in my family was medical, so I looked it up, brain surgeon, neurosurgeon, spine. Yeah, and I said at second grade, I'll do it, God. I'll answer the call that you have in my life. And so I didn't really have a choice, and then fast forward about 25 years, I go into practice. After my training, I'm from Detroit, and my training at University of Chicago, and then Northwestern Medical School at Wayne State, Penn State, and then Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. And then I was in practice for a year in Virginia, which was really interesting. And then from there, came back home in Michigan and began a couple of LLCs in education. I was always enamored by education and communication.
It's amazing. So most doctors, I've worked in the field as well for many, many years. Most doctors that I encountered, education wasn't the focus. It was the PDR. Right?
Right.
PDR. That's kind of how they taught. So education was kind of missing there. And so I thought that was fascinating. And that's always been your yearning to be able to educate people.
Well, thank you. Because, how do we communicate? Like if we can educate each other, we understand each other.
Absolutely.
We understand options in terms of health.
Correct.
There's just so much that goes with education and communication. So,
Correct.
And then when COVID hit, I said, well, we've got to do something online to educate and support this dialogue. And so as a result, we began this journey with this LLC, and it was amazing because we began to connect people from all over the world, doctors.
That awesome?
It was great, and talked about all kinds of different health, bone health.
What the enemy tried to isolate, you connected.
Right.
Create
That's
this amazing connection.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you is many times people will ask me, what happened to our brains during COVID?
Right. So a couple of things. So you have the physiologic answer, which is the way that our brains metabolize the nutrients and even took in information slowed way down. And we call that bradyphrenia, which is slowness of thought. When you're not getting the nutrition that you need and you're being bombarded by emotional toxins, you're being bombarded by food substances, negativity, fear, and also wearing the mask, and now you're breathing in carbon dioxide, you're affecting natural respiration. And so
that makes a lot of sense.
And actually people gained weight because of the mask, because we learned now that, and there was a study done actually through Cardio Miracle, and they referenced some other really interesting sources that confirmed from Dr. Meerman and others that in fact you lose weight by breathing off carbon dioxide, which is super fascinating, and the whole respiratory chain. So when you have the mask on, you actually gain. You're not able to get rid of the carbon dioxide, and you get sick.
Yeah,
right.
It's crazy.
So it's like,
and then how many things that we were exposed to cross the blood-brain barrier?
That's right.
To the brain.
That's right.
So now you're struggling with this ability for us to think and have good cognitive thought and make good decisions, right?
That's right. That
was a big issue.
That was a huge issue because what happened? There was more domestic violence. There was more depression because of the fact that you weren't metabolizing. Your brain wasn't functioning correctly. People were becoming more angry. It was just, it was a big deal over the last several years. And so we've got to come up with an answer that's going to deal with brain fog, that's going to get us to the point where we can be happier emotionally as a reflection of our physical selves.
And then life is in the blood, right?
And that's right. Life is in the blood.
So if we can encourage the blood flow throughout the body. So maybe the number one question for those people might watching for the very first time, how does nitric oxide, how is it formed in the body?
Yeah. So nitric oxide is absolutely amazing, and it's the spark of life that has been quoted by other researchers. And I just fairly recently learned this. Like back in medical school, we had some discussion, and I forgot 40 whatever years ago. But the lining of your blood vessels actually have proteins that will create nitric oxide, right? And when that happens, that nitric oxide will actually repair tissues. It'll repair the lining of your blood vessels. We talk about when we have stroke, that you have hardening of the arteries and plaque. Well, part of that reason, that mechanism is because of the damage of the lining of the blood vessels. So nitric oxide is being produced the whole time to help combat that. So, and it needs a little help, and two things that I found that really help. Number one is the Cardio Miracle, because it helps to not only provide nitric oxide, but then promote the production of nitric oxide. And the other thing that's really fascinating, so this goes along with spiritual and emotional health, laughter.
Yes.
So you put Cardio Miracle together, helping your physical body, literally, and then laughter, helping your spiritual and emotional self, and the two in combination produce the spark of life, which is nitric oxide, which will repair all the tissues in your body, and especially the lining of the walls of the blood vessels. That's going to affect your heart, your liver, your pancreas,
which
your
is
kidneys.
Exactly what the spike protein did, right?
Yes, exactly.
It damaged that.
Shredded
it, caused challenges throughout. I mean, how many times have we seen the pictures, right?
Yeah, right.
Of all these challenges that people are having internally in the veins and arteries. So I think this definitely is a step forward. And to have you be able to explain it so beautifully, because the average person out there, think about it, the average person, they're drinking Red Bulls, they're taking things, they don't really care what's in it. They just want the effects of how the product makes them feel, right?
That's right.
And so now we're in a society that we're in I call it the Amazon, right? The Amazon society. It's here today, gone tomorrow, gone tomorrow, here today. Everything is fast moving. Can you explain what's happening right now to the mental acuity? You touched on a little bit before. How does nitric oxide, L-arginine, affect the thought process or the brain overall?
That's right. So when you have bioavailable L-arginine and nitric oxide, you're going to dilate the blood vessels in your brain. That's going to give more oxygen to all the cells of your brain. And not only are you going to think clearer, but you're going to be quicker on your feet. And some people that I know, because of the support that they've had, because as you know, that Cardio Miracle is a food, right?
Yes.
And it's a food. It's a really healthy food that actually tastes wonderfully. So when you support your systems with good food, what happens? Your systems work better. Some people, for instance, who are taking good food, notice that sometimes their eyes clear up.
Yeah.
And their vision.
Yep.
Their thought clears up. They're not as confused, right? Their skin.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we talk about long COVID. People say, I'm dizzy, I have ringing in the ears. It's hard for me to think. Again, bradyphrenia or slowness of thought. All that goes on. And so if we can address those, and we have an answer in Cardio Miracle, so I'm super excited because I can actually suggest a good food that supports our systems and how our systems function, so they can all go online and function the way they're supposed to. And if you look at our food substances, they're not that great. Even when sometimes when we go and we try our best, for our vegetables. Yeah. And so now to have something that is both a food that's really effective and it addresses the issue of the nutrients, but it addresses the issue of the fact that we don't have much time. Right. So when you look at statistically, we see fast food is very popular. Why? Because it's quick. We don't have a lot of time. You got to get in and out. Yep. And now you can have something that's just as quick, but is actually just the opposite in terms of nutritional value. And so that nutrition is going to support respiration, which actually supports weight loss, which is a whole nother animal. And there was this study that was done looking at weight loss using Cardio Miracle and talking about what happens when you breathe out carbon dioxide, that it enhances that process.
Well, that's always a question. How do we lose weight, right?
Right.
It doesn't just fall off your body.
Right.
How do you lose weight? So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right. You're losing fat.
Why do we exercise, and have that expression? That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
You mentioned to me last time we were together with your beautiful wife, you were talking about some medical care that you were giving in the rural communities. And you mentioned that a couple that were taking the Cardio Miracle, their wounds are grafting.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
It's fascinating.
That's really exciting.
Fascinating. So what we know in general is when there's poor diet and poor nutrition in the diet, you're unable to support your body's ability to heal. Right? And that's where the fast food comes from and everything else.
Yeah.
So now you get this good food, which is the Cardio Miracle. And what we've seen is literally people heal, their skin their skin regenerates and is just supported, and it's very healthy. And so we've seen that in a number of people that we've treated, and we're so excited about it because we're just talking about good food.
Good food.
Just good food.
I mean, think about it. 700 nutrients, over 58 ingredients.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I first started this, I looked on the bag and I went, so you're telling me that all this is in here?
Right.
And then I was praising the Lord, saying we were asking for sustenance, right?
That's right.
So I really believe that this is made for the time that we're in. And you're going to be getting together later with Dr. Judy, who's a dear friend of both of ours.
Wonderful person.
But she always talks about it. She goes, you can be out there and trying to eat a good meal, and it can be loaded with glyphosates. It can be loaded with the things that they're even putting mRNA in our meat, in our food.
Right.
We can't even begin to understand how depleted our food sources are.
That's right.
So she says all the time, eat for fun, but this is your food.
That's right.
Enjoy the company, enjoy the food, but this is really your ultimate food.
That's right. And for us who are traveling.
Oh my goodness.
So again, we go back to this paradigm. When you look over the last 40 years or so and how we changed from sitting down at a meal, the nutrients were good, and we eat and we communicate with each other, to now fast food. You saw the decline in grades. You saw the increase in domestic violence. You saw the increase in anxiety and depression, right? And a lot of that had to do with food. But our excuse was, well, we need something quick. Our lives are becoming busier. But now you have something that's quick and good. So John Hewlett was just brilliant at creating this because, for instance, for me, I'm on the go all the time. If I'm in surgery or in the hospital when I come home, so it's late nights.
Airports. Last time we were on a television show together. How long did it take you to get home? 2 days?
Right. It took a couple of days to get home,
right? Oh my
right?
gracious,
But I put these in my packet, in my, in one of my pockets, and I'll take like a 500 cc bottle of water, just take the top off. I just open this, pour it right in, shake it up. And now I have all the food.
The way you go.
And the way that I go. And you know what? And here's something really telling. Just recently, I was talking to my wife, Kara, and we were saying that we're very consistent users, and we minimum twice a day, sometimes more, right? Because we've seen the benefits. It's just sustained us.
Right.
But we had a period of about a week or so where we couldn't get to it. And what happened was we were kind of a little bit sluggish, and we were eating some carbohydrates and everything, right? And so we saw, wow, this is a big deal when we don't have our Cardio Miracle. So what happens? So then we started to take this, and just last week, we were so busy, we were only getting 3 and 4 hours of sleep, which I don't recommend.
Oh, wow.
But because we were taking Cardio Miracle, we were completely awake up the whole time, even on the travel.
Wow.
Normally pass out, didn't do it. Why? Because the nitric oxide, the spark of life, and all the other wonderful supportive ingredients for our heart and our brain kicked in and supported all of our systems.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
I often think about the Garden of Eden. Can you imagine how lush and beautiful that must have been? They had everything they needed in that garden, right?
That's right.
And so sometimes I look at the product and I think all of our prayers for ultimate health, God answers in different ways.
That's right.
So if there's people out there looking at this for the very first time, you might be thinking, I've heard it all, right? I've heard all the nutritional stories. Yeah. I see them on television. But truly, this is really changing lives. I mean, my issue was blood pressure.
Right.
I always would tease. I usually cause high blood pressure. I don't have it. but it sneaks up on you.
Yep.
And when you get to a certain age, it's like, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Right.
And I didn't even know it because it's a silent killer, right?
That's
And
right.
I was doing a lot of different nutrients, and I thought I was doing a really good nitric oxide product.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until being on this for 3 days, my blood pressure came down, and it's been great for 3.5 years.
That's wonderful.
But since I first started, when I first started witnessing people really having significant changes in their life with the product, you fast forward to today. What is exciting about your affiliation now as being part of us as the medical director for Cardio Miracle, I'm so excited about that because how can we get to the people that are very, very ill, sometimes unless it's through their healthcare providers, right?
That's right. That's right. And we have this doctors program,
Yes.
which is amazing. And just to touch basis on that a little bit. So as doctors, just understand that the primary care doctors, the pediatricians, they're working really hard.
They are.
And to even make any kind of ends meet, they're finding that they have to see more people
Right?
to do that. And
Yeah.
it's so, and a lot of docs are kind of discouraged by that and they're leaving their practice. So we have a program that says, listen, if you partner with us in Cardio Miracle to help
Yes,
people eat
yes.
better and get the sustenance they need,
Right.
then we'll also help you because now we can, and financially, there is some reward and there's some reward when we come together as a medical community
Amen.
and we can help each other. And John Hewlett is all about helping people. He's all
Yes,
about team.
yes.
And he's about team,
Yes.
especially in the clinical setting as well as in the medical and healthcare setting. He understands that if we don't support our clinicians, and obviously you were a nurse,
Mm-hmm.
if he doesn't support the clinicians, then who's going to be around to try to help people, right? So he
I
wants
look
us
at it
clinicians.
that we are monetizing their gifting, right?
Right.
So we can just complement what you already learned for years and years in the medical community, in medical school. I know you're going to have an opportunity to meet Tucker here in a couple days.
Yeah.
What if he was sitting here today? What would you tell him
I would.
about the state of a union in our
Yes,
healthcare in our
yes.
in our country? State of a union in really nutrients and so on. What would you say to him?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is, Tucker, understand that we have to have a new way of helping people. And we have to use ingenuity. And one of the ways that we can use ingenuity is to tap into this amazing source of good food. Number two, I would say that we have to focus on our spiritual health and our emotional health. People don't realize that 85% of our disease processes are either contributed to or caused by poor emotional health, and that's caused by poor spiritual health. So when you have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you have faith in Him, what happens? It really affects and changes your emotional life, and your emotional life then
That's right.
feeds your physical life.
That's right.
And products like Cardio Miracle, which is a food,
Yes,
helps
food.
to sustain all of our systems.
Correct.
And it's absolutely been amazing. As a doc, I'll just say this, I do a lot, I prescribe different medications and things when people need them.
course.
But one of the things I always have to look at now is what interaction our two medications are going to have, right? And so many people are in polypharmacy, they're on a bunch of medications.
Right.
And I'm always concerned about, what if I write this prescription or that prescription, are these going to collide? Well, when I say, here's this amazing food source, which is Cardio Miracle, I don't have to be concerned about collision because it's not pharmacologic.
That's
It is an amazing food that has these
Correct.
ingredients that support all of our systems. So I'm thrilled. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to.
And no caffeine
Right.
and no sugar, which those are the big two things.
That's
A
right.
lot of your energy drinks today that's exactly what they have, right?
Right.
So another question I want to ask you, as a neurosurgeon, what was it like the first time you looked into the brain? I think about our Father, how He created us. He created us so that our body makes our own nitric oxide.
That's right.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely.
It isn't
amazing.
like we have to go and put, we're not talking about nitric oxide,
Right.
nitrous oxide.
Yep.
We're talking about nitric oxide.
Yeah.
So we don't have to go and put, the oxygen candles in our mouth.
Yeah.
But what was that like looking at the brain?
So it was absolutely amazing. The first time I had to learn how to take off the skull and do surgery,
Oh, wow.
right? And that was kind of like, in stages. And then when I saw the brain and I saw God's creation, it pulsates with the blood pressure and respiration, and you can touch the brain with sterile gloves, and it's just a person's alive. And now, when you operate, a person doesn't have sensory fibers on the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So you could literally take off the skull, wake them up, and talk with them while you're operating if you want to, because it doesn't hurt.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and some surgeries are done that way because you're making sure you don't injure certain areas that are for speech and so forth, they're motor. So you can do surgeries like that.
Yeah, functionality.
Yeah, you know what I noticed too? It's the microcirculation and the macrocirculation. When you perform brain surgery, you're kind of like a plumber. And as a plumber, you have to watch the blood vessels and the supply of blood to certain areas. Again, I think about Cardio Miracle and how it dilates the blood vessels.
That's right.
It heals the walls of small and large circulation. And that, again, contributes to health in the brain and the rest of the organs. So I would tell Tucker,
Fascinating.
Tucker, we have to focus on our spiritual health, our emotional health, and our physical health. And regarding Cardio Miracle, that's a huge win in terms of our physical health, and it contributes to our emotional well-being.
Correct. Now, you recently you looked at the paper that was done, the PTSD and Cardio Miracle. What are your thoughts as we close this interview? But I know we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. That's super exciting. And everything that you're going to be doing, we're going to be embarking on a clinical study.
Yes, really exciting.
That's super exciting. And so talk a little bit about that.
Right. So with PTSD and you have an impact injury, whether it's blunt or sharp, that there's a blast that goes across the neurons in your brain, the cells, and that affects the electrical signaling. So what we've noted is with Cardio Miracle and supporting the nutrition of the brain, it changes that process. It stops the process because it has a support with the blood vessels and the nutrition. And the glutathione that's made, and also it has NAC and other amazing ingredients in there.
Lion's mane.
And lion's mane.
Yes.
It's really exciting for a neurosurgeon who's an allopath. Like I'm more pharmacologic, and now I've got a food that's helping to support the brain. And even in people who have PTSD, it's amazing.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And again, we're going to be hearing a lot more from you. We're going to be sharing on a daily basis, not daily basis, but we're going to be sharing quite frequently about how our study is going, what some of the other things that we're uncovering with Cardio Miracle. But bless you so much. And I sure appreciate you.
Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.